In a scientific research lab, there is a strange girl who is an hologram talking about alchemy and reviewing incomprehensible data. Then she announces that Ming Fei has finally returned. We go to a large train station in a foreign country, where an officer is with our protagonist who carries many suitcases. The officer asks our protagonist, Ming Fei, if he is a homeless man asking for money. But Ming Fei gets very upset when the officer says that, insisting that he is only asking to the CC line and begging to see the card with the name of this line. The officer apologizes, saying he never heard of the CC line, is a homeless man and needs money. He should contact his country's embassy for help. Humiliated, Ming Fei puts his hand in his pocket and takes out, insisting not to be homeless, even if he doesn't have much. Then Ming Fei blames himself for the strange woman who appeared in his life. He remembers her describing the way, leaving the airport, going to the train station. He will find a special train on the CC line that will take him to Castillo University. Ming Fei doesn't understand what's going on and thinks he was. His hunger takes him to a restaurant to buy a hamburger, but the team informs him that homeless people cannot enter at them, saying he is not a homeless man, so two homeless people call him to join them, but he shouts at them too, insisting he is not and has money. Suddenly, a voice behind him says, "If you're not a homeless man and have money, give me some." Ming Fei loses his patience, perplexed by this strange country. He turns to the beggar who gives him a lesson in firmness, shouting in English that he has no money and has nothing to give. The beggar realizes that Ming Fei looks Chinese and speaks to him in Chinese, asking his name. Ming Fei pretends to be Japanese, answering in Japanese that he doesn't speak Chinese. The beggar realizes the farce and says that Ming Fei doesn't look Japanese. Ming Fei then tries to speak Korean. The beggar tells him to stop swearing and dramatically reveals not to be a beggar but a respectable student. Finger. He adds that he sympathizes with Ming Fei. He is also a student in a difficult situation. Finger asks in a more sophisticated way, asking money for a drink and offering help to get to the destination. Finger notes Ming Fei's train ticket and asks if he is from Kassel University. Ming Fei gets scared and retreats, asking there is a problem being from Kassel University. Finger looks at him for a moment before dramatically saying that he is his veteran at the university. Ming Fei, tired of Finger's lies, asks why he is lying, accusing him of not being proud as a beggar. Finger calmly shows his own train ticket from the CC line. Ming Fei's irritation turns into joy when someone to guide him in this strange country. Ming Fei anxiously tells Finger his name and begins to share his life story. But Finger takes the little money Ming Fei to buy a drink, a form of bullying in our world. Finger welcomes Ming Fei, asking what his year is. Finger, bored, replies that he is in the 8th year, explaining that students graduate in 4 or 5 years. He decided to become a legend, giving the college the honor of hosting failing 4 years in a row, making him the most famous student at the university. Sit at the station until late at night, empty, except for them. Ming Fei asks Finger if he has ever been on the CC line. Finger replies that yes, and that the line is hidden without a fixed schedule. Explains that the school is in the mountains, and the only way to get in or out is by train. Finger, the famous veteran, tells Ming Fei that if a student is high, the teacher himself will come to get him. They have to wait like everyone else in turn. Ming Fei is surprised that Finger, a student at University 8 years ago, has such a low level. Ming Fei wants more questions, but Finger falls asleep and Ming Fei also falls asleep and dreams of a bell, a people running away from the fire and jumping off a mountain. He wakes up scared, unable to find Finger. He looks out the window and sees a huge moon and looks at it, suddenly seeing a small child sitting on the floor. The child tells him that when the bell rings, Ming Fei's past will haunt him, asking if he is ready to face him. The child adds that the peak of the bronze mountain will melt, the seas will boil, the essence of the earth will reveal itself, and the coming storm will destroy everything. The child asks again if Ming Fei is ready to face Ming Fei approaches, asking if he is hungry or knows the parents' phone. The child laughs, saying that despite the years, Ming Fei is still kind and has not changed. He still feels sorry for Ming Fei and starts to burn, but Ming Fei wakes up and finds Finger realizing for him to pick up the bags because the train has arrived. When a zombie employee arrives to the passengers of the CC 1000 train to prepare tickets and belongings. Seeing the employee, Ming Fei thinks he looks like a ghost and that the train must be going to hell. The employee meets Finger, saying that his rank has fallen to F. Finger surprised because instead of improving, he declined shamefully. Ming Fei introduces himself, saying to his name and that he is a new student. The employee is silent for a long time, so he runs like a madman with a bell, screaming that the new Ming Fei student's rank has arrived. Finger is also shocked by Ming Fei's level and wonders why no one greeted him. Finally returning to normal, tells that Ming Professor Guderian should have greeted him personally. They say that if he inserts the card into the device, special train will come just to take him to the university. When Ming Fei tries, the entire station lights Finger up to welcome him. These are the right welcomes for S students. Suddenly, everyone at the station turns into welcoming Ming Fei, who doesn't understand anything. Then a very luxurious and fast train arrives, the CC-1000 train. He is warmly received by Professor Guderian with a big hug, who said he was very worried that Ming Fei could refuse to enter Castillo. Ming Fei changes clothes and wears the university uniform, begins to give him the instructions he needs before arriving at the university. Here, the professor expels Finger and makes Ming Fei sign a confidentiality agreement. The professor starts with basic information that studying at the university takes 4 or 5 years, and although it is accredited, its curriculum is uncommon. He says they do intensive research on dragons, that although they are mythical all over the world, at Kassel University they research and kill them. The professor also mentions that few people know that dragons are real, and that they are studied and killed. He says that humanity has been fighting dragons for thousands of years, and that they played a significant and hidden role in human history. The professor tells Ming Fei that the purpose of Kassel University is to train new heroes to fight dragons. After this epic introduction, Ming Fei turns off the professor with pity, thinking he must be crazy. Ming Fei suggests that the professor psychiatrist because his condition is serious. Suddenly everything gets dark, and Ming Fei gets scared. The boy who appeared at the station appears again, telling him that what the professor said is true. Ming Fei turns to the boy, surprised that he is traveling on the same train, especially because he did not hear the boy says he boarded at the same time. Ming Fei asks the boy why he speaks like a ghost. The boy tells him to look out the train window, welcoming him to the land of dragons. There, Ming Fei sees a strange mountain that looks like a creature sleeping in it. The boy begins to tell Ming Fei about the first dragon, the Black Emperor Dragon, saying that he was killed 10,000 years ago, a mountain once covered with ice, and his murderers left his body at the peak of the mountain. The boy seems sad as he tells the story of the dragon's death. Ming Fei asks if he is connected to the dragon, but says the boy, on the contrary, that he believes his death was good. Ming Fei opens his eyes and still sees himself on the train, tells him that he passed out during the lecture. The professor thinks Ming Fei passed out of fear, but Ming Fei says not to fear dragons. He is scared because they take him to a strange place that he does not know, telling the teacher who brought the proof as a request. A member of the team introduces himself to Ming Fei as it is the first time he has met a rank S genius in 40 years. Ming Fei asks if the other genius is still in school. Toyama says no, because he shot himself in the head. Professor Guderian interrupts him, suggesting that they talk about the first evidence is a scale. The teacher asks Ming Fei to shoot it, knowing of his experience with military service weapons. Ming Fei takes the gun and shoots the scale, which remains unchanged. Ming Fei says it is not proof, it can be advanced armor. The teacher expected this and shows another proof. Killing dragons is even difficult. Dead, his body remains and his spirit will revive him. They show a small dragon in solution, but Ming Fei insists on being a well-made doll. Professor Guderian almost swears that dragons are real. Ming Fei approaches the dragon, who suddenly wakes up and spits fire, shocking everyone. They say Ming Fei must be the reason. Ming Fei stands firm, looking calmly. Suddenly, the dragon teacher tells Ming Fei that it is incredible that he managed to wake up the dragon. But Ming Fei is silent, looking at the dragon until when Ming Fei recovers. He asks the teacher if he can leave the university. The teacher says yes, but that would erase memory, possibly making him a little stupid, making it difficult for him to enter another university. The teacher tells Ming Fei that the world is bigger than we imagine, opening a door behind him and welcoming Ming Fei to the real world, Kassel University. Ming Fei arrives at the university and Professor Guderian tells him that the strongest dragons sleep in Kin. That's why they use this country's language in contracts. He also says that Ming Fei's mission is to infiltrate Kin and there is no one and the place is silent. Ming Fei asks Professor Guderian why. The teacher realizes that there is no one nearby. He rings the alarm and says he forgot what day it is. Then the shooting begins. Ming Fei is scared and asks what the hell is going on. Professor Guderian tells him that the president of the university doesn't like the subjects they teach and rejects them. There are soldiers and shots everywhere, and Ming Fei is confused. Explains what is happening. He is shot and falls. The two sides fight without a truce. Ming Fei is terrified of what he sees. Die on both sides, but the battle continues. In the end, only 3 remain on each side. The leaders agree. One says he will use the dictator, the other Murasame, and they fight in the university courtyard. With the shooting stopped, Ming Fei runs to Professor Guderian for a doctor. The leaders start praising each other's skills before fighting with swords. Ming Fei looks from afar. Suddenly, a girl falls from pointing a gun at his head and telling him to lower it. She aims at the target behind, but a student from the other team shoots her first and she falls. Ming Fei begins to hallucinate. In his mind says he could kill them all for him. The girl who shot says to Kyuzehang that there is no need to fight anymore because they won. Ming Fei grabs the girl's gun and shoots, killing everyone. Feeling the force disappear, Ming Fei leans against and sleeps until the school bell rings. He wakes up and sees another army. In fear, he raises his hand. Nurses to help the students. The nurses complain about repeating this silly game. Another person arrives, cursing the students for neglecting the school's studies and budget. He turns to Ming Fei and asks if he is a new student. When Ming Fei says yes, the man reprimands him for participating in saying that like he is old enough to have a judgment and should not get involved in this mess. He screams about the cost of the repairs. Suddenly, Professor Guderian, allegedly injured, sits next to Ming Fei, explaining that the man is Professor Klein, his friend, responsible for the school's budget discipline. And that's why he is so rigorous. Ming Fei realizes that he is talking to Professor Guderian and gets scared, thinking he could be a ghost. He starts saying strange things to get the spirit away. Ming Fei tells Professor Klein to use his to reflect the light and burn Guderian's evil spirit. Guderian assures Ming Fei that he is alive, not a ghost. Ming Fei accuses him of lying, pointing the blood on his chest. Guderian explains that today is the day of freedom, trained with real ammunition. Not a war, but a school event. He shows Ming Fei the ammunition, a tranquilizer. It burns, vaporizes, and leaves a red blood mark without hurting anyone. He uses himself as an example, shooting himself to prove his safety. The tranquilizer erases him. Ming Fei looks at Ruva and sees her still sleeping. The school returns to normal, students walking as if they had just fallen. Professor Klein is angry because the students are still making a mess to cancel the Day of Freedom, as it costs the school a lot. Approaches and recites the school rules. 1. Strangers are forbidden to enter. Do not harm anyone. 3. Students should not touch the alchemy equipment in the ice room. Kyuzehang argues that no rule was broken. Laws were violated and Klein cannot cancel the day. Klein gets more angry and calls the principal to complain about the students. Saying they used the school as a battlefield and the repair costs will be high. The green area was severely damaged. When the principal asked Caesar about the damaged confident Caesar says he can do better and even a fountain with his father's money. The principal laughs, saying he plays to have fun because the Day of Freedom is a gift. He assures them not to worry about the cost, because the school will cover the repairs and hopes to join them next year. The students applaud the principal and Ming Fei unites, praising his personality. While Professor Klein, irritated, is by his side, asks Klein if Ming Fei arrived and enrolled in his class. Klein asks his name and, knowing it's Ming Fei, hands him the phone to talk to the principal. Ming Fei tells the principal that he just arrived. He will certainly enroll in his class. The principal receives him, saying that he defeated Caesar on his first day, excited to see the new student of rank S. Professor Klein advises Ming Fei to go to the dormitory to the other students who faced him. Scared, Ming Fei asks Klein for directions to the dormitory. When Ming Fei arrives at his room, he discovers that he has a roommate. Takes Ming Fei on a tour of the school, explaining everything about it. Consists of words and movements used by dragons and humans, allowing them to use different elements and skills. Ming-Fei asks Finger about the great tree statue at the university, and Finger tells him that it is a statue of the world under which the Black Dragon Emperor lies. This tree is the emblem of Kassel University. Later, Professor Guderian comes looking for Ming-Fei and asks if he learned about Yanling. Ming-Fei replies that he only learned Professor Guderian informs him that he will do a test tomorrow. Professor Guderian takes Ming-Fei back to the dormitory, says that tomorrow he will do the 3E test. Ming-Fei is intrigued by the name and asks what the test is. Professor Guderian explains that it is a lineage test and says it would be easy for an S like Ming-Fei. Guderian admits that he could not contain the desire to know Ming-Fei's lineage and shows him a music box that he borrowed from the Professor Guderian explains to Ming-Fei that in the past the Black Dragon Emperor roared from his throne, and other dragons turned and knelt, no matter the distance. He continues, saying that technicians in Dagon learn to hear the voice of the Dragon Emperor at any time. He adds that the dragon's tongue is the beginning of Yanling, and the strongest is the Emperor's Yanling. Despite the explanation, Ming-Fei does not understand a word and questions whether they are even human words. Professor Guderian assures him that it is normal because he arrived at the university and suggests a practical experiment. Plays the sound of the Dragon Emperor to Ming-Fei, who listens attentively. After the play, Professor Guderian asks cheerfully if Ming-Fei felt the call of the dragon's blood. Ming-Fei disappoints him by mumbling and saying that peace made him sleepy. Guderian asks desperately if he felt something any vision, but Ming-Fei insists that he saw nothing. Professor Guderian suggests that human genes may have dominated his dragon genes. Ming-Fei speculates that he may be just an ordinary human, however, insists not make a mistake in Ming-Fei's classification to the director, leaving Ming-Fei and Finger alone. Finger has a crucial task to spread the news at school. Ming-Fei did not answer the call of the Black Dragon Emperor. After completing his mission, he talks to Ming-Fei distressed. Ming-Fei tells Finger that the journey seems like a dream and fears failing in test as they could brainwash him and send him back home. Finger asks if Ming-Fei wants to go home. Ming-Fei says he wants to stay at the university. Finger then shocks him by asking his opinion about cheating. Ming-Fei at first shows integrity, saying that he would never cheat. However, when Finger reveals that he has the questions, Ming-Fei abandons his pretension and offers to pay for Finger's dinner. Then we see Kezar addressing the students, saying that they lost to Northern House after the defeat on Liberty Day, and that this will be their last meeting there. The students are upset, claiming that the shot that made them lose was a cheating. Kezar tells them that the inability to accept defeat is a sign of weakness. He mentions that the Leonhardt Society remains silent, and that Qiuzehang accepted his defeat. Suddenly, a redhead named Nono tells Kezar there is a new announcement on the school's website, revealing that the new student, Rang S, did not respond to the Emperor's Yanling. The news quickly spreads to Qiuzehang, and everyone is intrigued by what Professor Guderian runs to call Professor Klein, asking him at the library to inform him of what happened during the test. There, Guderian claims that Qiuzehang is so pure that no one can look him in the eyes, making it impossible for Ming-Fei's classification to be wrong since he shot at Qiuzehang. However, Ming-Fei also did not respond to the call of the Black Dragon Emperor, Professor Klein to investigate more. Professor Klein buries old documents about the White Sovereign, who had immense power, rivaling that of the Black Dragon. He explains that there was a prophecy about purifying and freeing them from the domain of the Black Dragon Emperor. Black and White Dragons fought, and the dragon buried the White Dragon and his lineage. A story transmitted from the perspective of the Black Dragon. Professor Klein suggests that Ming-Fei's failure to the call of the Black Dragon Emperor is something they have never seen before. A complete investigation of Ming-Fei's lineage. Professor Guderian questions the importance of Ming-Fei's lineage and how they will research a child, because the Dragon Clan has dragon blood in its veins without pure humans. He wants to protect Ming-Fei from being subject to research. Professor Klein reminds Guderian that Ming-Fei was brought to be a warrior, not just a child. He advises Guderian to report, and promises from that the White Dragon lineage, it will be a rare Professor species. Guderian agrees against the taste, saying he does not want Ming-Fei to become a subject of research. Professor Klein guarantees that they will keep the potential White Dragon in secret until the Ming-Fei disapproves. They will report him and guarantee the ethical treatment of the researchers. At school, the security system is deactivated. Data operation begins, activating a program called Eva. A mysterious person tells Eva that they want Ming-Fei to take the test. But there is a great mystery about him that they need time to unravel. The next day, Ming-Fei is late for the exam and runs to arrive on time. He meets Nono standing and sits down. He opens the test and finds it blank. That finger told him that the test would be blank and that he should fill it with the vision he had. Students begin to hear recordings of a dragon, and Ming-Fei remembers Finger telling him that they use 8 audio files in sequence over the last 8 years. He gives him tips about what they were. Suddenly, all the students act strangely, and the exam becomes chaos. But a girl keeps writing calmly. Outside, a teacher tells someone on the phone, student who is going to lose his head. Tells Nono that she was very calm in the test, and Nono explains that she already had spiritual before coming, so there were no problems. The teacher asks what she saw in the first vision, and she replies that she saw her mother sleeping in bed when suddenly a shadow approached, stole her soul and killed her. Returning to the test, Ming-Fei writes everything that Finger told him. The students disappear and he sees the boy who always appears to him. The boy asks Ming-Fei to follow him, and Ming-Fei sits next to him, asking his name. The boy says his name is Ming. The boy says that Ming-Fei now sees him because he has a spiritual vision. Guides Ming-Fei through spaces, and Ming-Fei asks who Ming-Za is. Points to Ming-Fei's heart and says that the answer is there. He says that humans are usually stupid, but in the case of Ming-Fei, he is being deliberately stupid. Of course, Ming-Fei doesn't understand anything and ends place at school where Ming-Fei wakes up with Nono's voice saying that he passed out during the exam. For 2 hours of the 3 hours of the test. She also says that he wrote 9 answers, but there were only 8 questions. Despite this, she congratulates him on the test, saying that his answers were correct, even with more answers than questions. Finger then gives Ming-Fei his advice on classes and warns him to avoid Professor Lars's because he is very rigorous with the presents. However, he also tells him that Professor Lars is on a mission outside because the school. They found remains of a dragon and he went to then see Professor Lars on a plane over the ocean in the water, looking for the dragon's palace. They use their ability, which involves a giant snake, to reach the dragon faster. Suddenly, there is an earthquake and they lose contact with the plane. Professor Lars blames himself for repeating the same 8-year-old mistake. The connection was restored, and student Ikin and his partner Kai arrived at the Dragon's Professor Palace. Lars informs the director, stating that Ikin found a bronze dragon palace. The director confirms that it must be the Imperial Dragon Palace. Professor Lars insists that they must act quickly before they miss the opportunity. According to Ikin's report, he believes the palace is not empty and certainly contains something. The director orders the start of the operation. If they cannot capture what is inside alive, they must eliminate it. Lars asks permission from the director to use the key. Lars approaches a woman with a small child and informs that the director allowed the use of the key. The woman asks him to keep the key, as there is no other except this child with pure dragon blood. She says that not even Kyuzong has blood as pure as hers. Lars takes the child and advises the woman to spend more time with this woman is Nono's adoptive mother. Lars prepares to dive into the sea with the key, explaining to the assistant that this is Bronze Dragon Palace, a first-generation dragon. One of the 4 regents descended from Black Dragon and known in his records as Norton. He explains that humans saw dragons as gods or demons, while dragons saw humans as insects or slaves. For the first time in history, there is a chance for the 2 races to communicate, which would be the most important conversation of the millennium. Lars dives into the water, joins Yixing and Canny, and that he has exactly 2 hours to complete the mission. He provides them with new hoses to replace those cut off by the earthquake. Lars asks them to support him while suddenly he performs a gate appears, and Yixing notices that he is cursed by the fire. Lars explains that they soak their bodies in oil, chew fire and die burn, but their bodies do not turn grey and their souls remain to protect the place. A terrible curse about which even intruders. With the key, they take the child away, his finger to touch the gate, bleeding and ordering the guardian to open it. The guardian hands over the key, which they insert into his eye, opening the gate completely. The child returns to normal and begins to cry. Changes from teacher to caregiver, trying to calm the child. He shoots a chemical bomb, instructing him to use it if they do not. The living being and prioritize their lives and returns safely. Lars returns to the ship, monitoring the mission by video. He warns them that time is short and the task is to find the king's room quickly. Norma begins to analyze the palace and look for the Emperor's room, noting that it is a maze of bronze tunnels, like ant colonies. Lars describes the palace as a huge alchemical machine. Comments that if the palace is so complex, Emperor who built it must have been a skilled machinist. Yixing and Akin find a very tall bronze column. Yixing states that it could not have been built by humans. Yixing orders Akin to photograph the column and says he will look for his snakes. He warns him not to save him if something happens and run away immediately, giving him a leader's order. Lars asks Akin to photograph the column. Akin discovers inscriptions in the dragon's tongue on the tree around the column, probably from the Emperor's own dragon. Norma joins them, advising Akin to divide into groups and send them separately. Akin starts photographing but suddenly has trouble breathing and gets dizzy. The team on the plane notices his heartbeat accelerating, and suddenly the connection with her is lost. They try to pull her by the rope just to find out that she is cut. We return to Akin, about to faint and fall, but Yixing supports her. Akin reassures him, saying he's fine. If he found anything in the Emperor's room, he replies that the bone was too heavy to carry, so he blew it up. And now they're getting a bronze sample for analysis. Yixing sees a statue and says it's a dragon effigy, which they should take to the exam. Akin moves the statue, the palace changes, and a black shadow attacks. She asks Yixing to attack, but the shadow, which is Yixing, asks who to attack, revealing that Akin was hallucinating. Yixing tells Akin that the statue had been following her for a long time. Shoots and Akin realizes that she was under control, having hallucinations. She notices that the rope was cut without realizing, blames herself for not being cautious enough, but Yixing admits his mistake in leaving her alone. Akin notices Yixing carrying something on his back and asks if snakes found it, and it could be the grey jar because it has the symbol of eternal life. If the dragon sleeps in there, it means it's young and they should take it. Suddenly, the whole palace starts to move. Yixing says the statue must have activated and tells Akin to run away. They try everything to escape but fail. Yixing claims that the palace woke up and detected them as intruders and closed the gate. At Kassel University, Mingfei wakes up scared by a bell that someone rings it at this time. Lai Mingzi appears, explaining that it is to the high bell tower. Lai Mingzi, afraid of heights, speaks about the difference between dream and reality, suggesting that Mingfei's world may be unreal. Lai Mingzi continues, explaining that the morning bell rings for when someone dies or is close to death, indicating danger and opportunity. He warns Mingfei of the imminent danger. Lai Mingzi asks Mingfei if he remembers the online game he played, which skill he would choose if he could have only one. Mingfei chooses the Black Sheep Wall, a skill that reveals the complete map. Lai Mingzi says that Mingfei can already advises him to use it because soon he will need it. In a labyrinth, a map is essential. 3. Mingfei wakes up with Finger shouting for him to hurry up. The alarm is ringing, discovering that all ranker or higher students must go to the computer center in the library. Mingfei is lost because he did not read the manual. They meet Nono, who tells Finger that ranker and must return to the room. She tells Mingfei that he is the only student with rank S in the whole school. When the students arrive at the library, Mingfei regrets not having read the manual. He looks around and sees the girl from the exam, surprised that she is also immediately inform them that colleagues are trapped in an underwater palace. They join to rescue them, giving all the information about the palace and the dragon. They explain that the only way to save them is to solve the mechanism of the palace. They show the inscriptions that Akin photographed and say that they must decipher them to find the exit. Yuzong asks how long they have. Guardian says that they have exactly 20 minutes. Caesar comments that it usually takes 50 years to translate a book into the dragon's tongue, so solving these puzzles in 20 minutes seems impossible. The teacher insists that they should try as long as there is a chance. The school will do everything to save their students. The students log log into the system with their cards, and Ming-Fei imitates them. He notices everyone working fast, including the student from the exam, and feels useless. Ming-Fei remembers Liming's saying to use Black Sheep wall spell to access the map, so he decides to try. When he inserts it into the system, the energy suddenly cuts. The main screen returns, and Norma announces that the cryptography is complete by Ming-Fei's computer. At this moment, Ming-Fei ceases to be the useless there for whom everyone looks in amazement. They quickly send the deciphering to Yexin, and he and Akin try to escape. Is wounded by rocks, but Akio takes him to a place without water. Yexin tells the teacher to use the key and show them the way. The teacher activates the key, revealing the map. The key points down, indicating that they go down and wait for the gate to open. However, the snake discovers a labyrinth and below. They only have minutes of oxygen left. They need to swim 42 meters down. The teacher is optimistic that they will get the oxygen they have. Yexin tells the teacher that he will cut the communication to conserve energy for the snakes and turns off the call. Finding the way, Aki is still restless. The two look at each other. Yexin asks if she is okay, but she only faces him in the diving mask and says she has no oxygen to return. He insists that they will be fine, and they will. Aki suggests they stay there until the water swallows them, asking him not to say anything because there is not much time. She tries to confess what she feels for Yetim before they die, her, saying he loves her too and won't let her die here. He assures her that the exit will open soon, and we see there is a dragon nearby, indicating that they may not escape. Professor Lars notices the terrible situation and orders the rescue team to prepare boats and get ready quickly. He explains that the exit is underwater, and even if they swim with oxygen, they will be too far from the surface to survive. They will escape the palace, but they will die as Aki predicted. Back at the university, it's been 10 minutes lost in contact with the plane, and everyone is worried. Lu Ming-Fei calls, and Lu explains that he had an accident, and he doesn't know if they are okay. His friend advises him to pray and explains that the universe is full of energy and emotions, and Lu's feelings, even small, can make a difference. This comforts Lu a little. Meanwhile, the rescue team searches for 14 minutes but can't find Aki or Yiking. They are about to retreat when a boat sees something. They find Aki, who emerges and hands over the bronze warning them to leave quickly, as there is a creature nearby. Suddenly, Aki is pulled down, and her blood stains the water. Lars weeps for Yiking and Aki, blaming himself not protecting them and asking for their forgiveness. He looks up to see the dragon approaching the plane at high speed. They prepare to attack with chemical weapons. Lars, shocked by the presence of the dragon, despite the meticulous investigation, takes the chemical rifle and shoots, but the dragon doesn't die. The dragon eats the plane, looking for Yiking and Aki. And Lars' assistant fears that they are close, calling him a monster. Lars insists that he is an intelligent being. Chemical bombs on the plane to attract the dragon to them and detonate. When the dragon swallows the bombs, the signal is lost, but they regain control and detonate. They killed the dragon. Lars' assistant expresses sadness for losing Aki and Yiking. Suddenly, the dragon attacks Yamata, revealing that he survived the explosion. The dragon surrounds them. They realize that there is still a bomb in the dragon and suggest detonating it to buy time and escape. Lars orders the pilot to go straight to a dam, but the pilot warns about a collision. Lars insists and they follow the dam with the dragon behind. They use the key to open the gate and pass, followed closely by the dragon. Lars orders to detonate the bomb in the dragon and closes the gate and kills the dragon, but a fragment of prey is stored in Lars' chest, sealing his destiny. Back at school, the principal announces the success of the mission, an important dragon artifact, thanks Lu Ming-Fei for solving the palace riddle. While the students leave, Zhesheng offers Lu the presidency of Leonhardt. Lu, after Prest, refuses, finding the role too big. Zhesheng assures Lu his strength and respect, be it or as enemy, a friend, suggesting that Caesar can make the same offer. Bell rings, signaling the death of a warrior. The students are in solemn respect for the fallen. The principal visits Lars, who is dying from the venom in his chest, not only from the wound from the prey. He gives his final report, stating that the dragon was an important assistant of the Dragon Emperor. They recovered the bronze urn but do not know what it contains. The principal reveals that it has a cajulo, dragon bones, or Lars asks the principal not to tell the students his colleagues died, but that they were on other missions. He suggests that Nono choose another mentor and finally dies, joining his students. Ming-Fei receives an email from Nono inviting him to the Amber building, where Caesar wants to meet him and talk. Finger tells Mingfei that Caesar wants to recruit him to the student council. He may consider this a direct invitation from Caesar. Being a rank S rendered him special treatment. Mingfei asks Finger what he knows about Caesar. Finger tells him everything about Caesar's past. He explains that Caesar's family is one of the most famous in the West, and they have many businesses and are very rich. He says that Caesar will be the head of the family in the future, and the emperor of the shadows in the Western world. Mingfei replies that Caesar looks like an important man. But Finger continues, saying that every student at school knows. The first sentence that Caesar said when he arrived "Come fight with me if you're ready to lose." Mingfei changes his mind and says that like Caesar looks, and Finger agrees with everything. Mingfei falls into a significant silence, so Finger asks what's wrong. That he is thinking about what he said himself when he arrived. He remembers how he was amazed by the great and old university, and with the wind blowing his hair, he said, "Food in the canteen must be delicious." Mingfei says he will refuse the invitation and will not go, but Finger that he should go, especially because there will be a free buffet. Mingfei says he does not have a suit to wear. Finger suggests that he borrow one from the university theatre. Despite this, Mingfei is not yet very excited to go. Although the invitation was for Mingfei, the free buffet is personally for Finger, and the two go together. At the party, Mingfei realizes that everyone looks rich, and he feels was only invited because they thought he could not pay for the food. Finger explains to him that Caesar is exhibiting his power, so that when inviting Mingfei to join them, he accepts. Then a car arrives and red roses are extended, and Finger says that for Mingfei. Then Nono also arrives and tells them to in fact get wet with the rain and end up paying for the laundry. Caesar calls Nono, standing at the end of the path, and we discover that Caesar has prepared him for Nono. Mingfei and Finger enter the party, which is very elegant, making Mingfei feel that he has traveled in time. Then Caesar and Nono enter the party, and Caesar welcomes the guests, Nono asking his to congratulate, surprising her when he realizes that the party is in his honor. Then the party begins, and Finger finds it difficult to be at such an elegant party without, so he pulls Mingfei and they start doing acrobatics. Nono then tells Caesar that he needs to save Mingfei from Finger before he leaves the party and joins the Leonhardt Society. Caesar, however, knows that Zhu Zihong recruited him to the Leonhardt Society to invite him to the student council, but he does not like to do what they expect, so he will not do it. Nono tells him that all his strength comes from his great family and that he should be grateful to them. Caesar replies that his strength is his own and that he does not depend on the name of his family. Caesar advances, and with a single clap, the whole party stops and he starts his first day at school. He says very disappointed because he found out that there are many students. If they are the elite, they should not be less. He entered Kassel University, if for the truth of the world or for important positions. He says that they are not the real reasons, but they are here to fight. Talented can fight and protect their comrades, and only then will they die with honor. He asks what orders they should follow, and his speech is so strong that the audience starts shouting his name. But Caesar says that not only his orders will follow, but those of the elite. Says that the elite are the real madmen in the world, and everyone starts applauding. So Caesar calls Mingfei to the stage and asks him to come and stand by his side. But Mingfei hesitates. Caesar tells him that if he wants to refuse, says he must leave immediately. So Caesar tells him when the next dance is over, he must give his answer. Caesar makes a gesture for the party to continue and returns to Nono, who wants to leave because she is tired. He tells her to get a car because it's cold out there. The blonde who did the test with Mingfei is also at the party, but plays when she sees all this, she leaves them, approaches Mingfei, and invites him to dance. After finishing, she introduces herself as Ren and makes a greeting to him, like a king before leaving. Mingfei then sees Nono leaving, feel comfortable. He runs after Nono a happy birthday and leave, which signals her happy birthday. He goes to her and wishes to take her car to the top of the hill, as he wants to walk. Meanwhile, Norma alerts Caesar, saying that a dragon attacks the campus, and they closing all the university's defense system, activating anti-aircraft alchemy weapons and space defense systems, attacks the closing the main gate, and the administration doesn't even know how they got Norma into says there are 3 intruders. The 3 intruders separated after entering the campus. Announced that a dragon was attacking, saying that Professor Klein brought the copper jar to the university, and that may be the reason. Professor Klein asks Norma where the jar is, and she says it's in the research center, and she asks about the elite forces are out of the country, so the elite students will defend the building. She says that Caesar and his group will defend Valhalla, and Kyuzehong will defend the library with the Leonhardt Society. Fight. All the students on the hill arm themselves driving the car with Nono, but suddenly Minzi appears and starts provoking him, saying that Minfei must love Nono. Minzi says Nono never loved anyone before, and even when Yiching and Aoki left, and the she never showed any sadness. On the campus, Caesar sends a message to Nono, warning her of the situation at the university. The students capture 7 of the 3 intruders from various nationalities, making it difficult to know where they come from. The remaining Norma 6 says that intruders. None of them met the person they ask who Professor Klein to use his snakes to find them. The administration orders Professor Klein to tell the Night Watch to suspend the law and find the remaining 6 that the law should be suspended to use Yinling and find the intruders. He says that the Dragon Emperors are about to wake up, and the students need a chance to train because what is to come is huge. The Night Watch releases the law, the mountain where Nono and students to use their Yinlings they dip freely. Their feet in the lake to watch the stars. The water is freezing, but none of them admit not to lose their composure. Minfei starts a romantic conversation about the stars and the lake. He asks Astutu if he was close to Aki and Iching, who died in the last mission. She replies that not only did they die, but Lars too. She explains that he Lars was a professor at the university and his mentor. He told her that if Nono says that continuous missions without his return, it meant that he was dead. That she tells his message she died. He should tell people that she was sent to a distant base. Nono says she's not sad at all. She wanted them to understand would know even without understanding her message and forgetting it. Minfei asks why no one here fears death, neither students nor teachers. Nono says he has no idea. She mentions that some people train at school, erase the dragons from their minds, and live as if they never knew them. If someone chooses to stay here, they must have a reason why about her dying, and she says she just doesn't want to go home. She suggests changing the subject of death and talking about stars, but the law is suspended. Goes back to all death. Invaders, students, and teachers use Yaning freely. Light of hell. As soon as the law is suspended to move, the invaders use a range of only 2 meters, so they must stay close. Their target is the Valhalla building. Professor Klein releases his snakes through the school to look for the invaders. There are bounty hunters among the invaders. They say they have infiltrated the agent and receive the bounty hunter quickly sneaks towards the cellar. They must find an underground chimney to enter the building. The chimney has not been used for a long time, so he arrives at the door that leads to an underground path. No one at school. The agent on the phone instructs him to use the black card she gave him to pass. The invaders in his area. He opens the door. He calls to Kassel to find out if the guests have appeared there too. Hong confirms, and Caesar asks if he bets on who finishes the fight first. Hong calmly waits in the library for the invaders. His assistant asks if he's okay. We don't know why, but Chuzi assistant asks if he shouldn't leave society either. Receives as a rule the order to evacuate the library immediately. Says he wants to go out. He asks her to take the students away from the library because that invaders enter the height under the light of hell, thinking no one sees them. Their leader looks at Aki's photo and calls her stupid. One of the invaders asks if no one sees them, as Caesar looks at them and laughs. Before the leader begins to shoot, her cell phone Caesar rings loudly and beautiful music. As soon as the shooting begins, Quasar raises his hand and everyone stops shooting. The leader asks Quasar for permission to answer the phone, gets angry with the person who called to interrupt during a fight, then throws the phone away, replies saying that sales calls are the worst. She comments that she asks Caesar is a rich and arrogant boy, herself. She doesn't think he's and jokes that she will say her name, she seems familiar. She explains that she is Sakitokumai's older sister. Caesar apologizes for warning of her death, but Mai says they weren't close. They weren't raised together, so it doesn't matter. Following orders, that her sister lived Mai plays a song and tells Quasar that they will fight when the music ends. Quasar asks why they invaded the university. Mai says they came for the dragon bone brings disasters, but she replies that it also brings a new era bigger than Caesar can imagine. Ends. Everyone is Caesar makes a silent countdown from 15 to 1. At 11, the music abruptly ends and the invaders fry the students like potatoes. Caesar survives and tells Mai that he uses rubber bullets so as not to cause many deaths. While he deduces things about them, Mai discovers that he talks too much instead of looking for the Jaro. Mai says her mission is to delay him and that search for the Jaro is the task of the masked everything that happens to Caesar as he left the line open. Caesar continues to talk to Mai, saying Mai says the real fight hasn't started yet and offers a singular apology, fighting him in the dark where it's stronger. They start fighting. Caesar says that no one escapes his Kamitachi and she won't be an exception, but to his surprise he doesn't hit her. We move to Kyuzehong waiting for the masked he girl. Didn't want anyone to see his eyes, so he asked his colleagues to leave the library. Kyuzehong says he has secrets to keep. Teachers the masked girl says she was warned to be careful with him because he's a monster unarmed. A teacher suggests that his Yinling may be so powerful that it doesn't Kyuzehong's Yinling. The teacher replies that only the director and his mentor saw it and no one else can know. Udarian asks if it's that dangerous, but the teacher doesn't answer and orders Kyuzehong to finish her off. Udarian is shocked, saying is rare and the sovereign, making everything explode and turn grey in seconds. He understands why they kept Kyuzehong's Yinling a secret. The masked girl also uses Sovereign Flame, shocking the teachers who question her identity. Eva asks him to leave immediately or the consequences not familiar with him. The reward hunter refuses, saying he likes to bet to have fun, and asks her the way to the Skulled area. Eva tells him the way in great detail, as if he were not an enemy, and the reward hunter thanks her and follows. The phone agent tells him that he is close to the Skulled area, 5 million, where he will. Blinded by the 5 million, the reward hunter loses focus. He swims, saying he will find out for himself before hearing the final underwater door. Feeling terrible about Nono and Mingfei swimming in watermelon water, where Nono tries to convince Mingfei to join the student union. When Nono asks him to join, he thinks it's a conspiracy of Caesar and Nono, that Caesar sent her to influence him and make him join. He says Nono clarifies that Caesar has nothing to do with what she asks, and that she wants him to join. He asks what she means. Nono says she wants someone to receive her orders. He says she can give orders to anyone there, engaged. She does not want to give orders to whoever follows Caesar. Nono is not happy with this because she wants to be independent and not take her strength from Caesar. That the best is for him to join Leonhardt. Realizes that she is engaged to Caesar, gives that he join the union, also protect him. Although, but he says that she did not help him escape the finger at the party when they forced him to dance. She remembers that she was going to help, but Caesar stopped her, saying that he himself could do it. She tries to convince him, promising that she would help him when she needed it. Nono is very happy with the gift, he sets fire to Nono as a birthday. She says she is happy. After that, he decides to join the union and lets Nono give him orders her mother to give him a gift. Nono promises to protect him in return. Taken away by the stream of water that comes out, falling on the roof in a room that looks like an aquarium. There he finds a shark, but this one avoids him and he manages to escape. He continues looking for the laboratory with the bottle and finds an elevator with the sign passes through the laboratory. We move on to the director card in the same place as the specimen. He says that the research so far has not been useful due to the lack of dragon samples, but the story will change and a new era will begin. The hunter watches the director make his big speech, realizing that the bottle must be what his client wants. The researchers ask the director if they can dissect the dragon and if the jar was made in 33 DC by a disguised Norton. The researchers ask him to dissect it as quickly as possible, and the boss asks if there is a guarantee that the director guarantees that it is safe. The creature is asleep and has not woken up. The conditions of deep nitrogen and magnets. He adds that the regenerative metal jar is so robust that not even the Dragon Emperor could open it. However, a researcher notices an opening in the jar. The director says it's a hole made by Lass with a chemical substance to threaten the dragon and make him chase them. The director asks Norma to show the results of the jar is divided in half with an empty part. The director thinks the chief researcher wants to dissect it immediately, but the director threatens him with a knife, telling him and the researcher knows the consequences of waking up the dragon at school and that at least the school would be destroyed. As soon as the chief researcher leaves the room, the hunter sees his chance to enter and steal the jar. Suddenly, he has a vision of someone photographing the jar. The hallucinations as a hallucination. He drops the tube that the agent gave him, but ignores the 5 million that his mission was to melt the metal with the agent's substance and get another person, a stranger, enters the jar room, calling the coward hunter for not having fulfilled the mission. This person takes the chemical substance, familiarized with Norma, and tells him to shut up. He approaches the jar, a few drops the glass around it, and offers his entire body to the Black Dragon Emperor Nidhogg. We return to Caesar, who is still fighting Mai. Caesar tells Mai that her fast movements and the sound of her grunt make her almost impossible to track. He suggests a race to see who wins 2 out of 3 to block Mai's first ability to detect the faintest Mai's skills make dealing with her increasingly difficult. The third round is much more difficult, creating sounds everywhere around him to distract him, making it difficult once again for the third time. Finally, he concentrates and an explosion occurs while they fight. They declare a truce, a draw, to investigate the cause of the explosion. Mai asks Caesar to turn on the lights, but Norma doesn't answer when Caesar calls her. Of someone about 160 centimeters tall. They start looking together for the cause of the explosion. Caesar asks Mai to make a hole like that from her group. The person must have used something that came from the elevator. They discover Mai asks what's down there. Caesar says it's the university laboratory. Caesar says that whoever invaded the laboratory had no heartbeats because he didn't hear any sound, even using his earline while fighting. Caesar's message about the attack on the campus returned to school. She tells Ming-Fei not to worry because they are already used to attacks like this. We return to the campus and Caesar are there, so when they're fighting the masked girl, probably they are on equal terms, and he can't defeat her. Is greater than the teachers notice that their domain say that their goal is to delay and distract him, so they don't try to knock him down, even though he's stronger. Professor Guderian notices the invading hunter trying to escape, so he alerts the students to shoot him, only for Ming-Fei to accidentally run over him with the car. Ming-Fei goes out to see the damage, but discovers that the person quickly they understand the situation. Lautang. Ming-Fei is a student at Kassel University. They return to the car in a very embarrassing situation, with Lautang holding a knife to Ming-Fei's neck, pretending to be a hostage. Lautang asks Ming-Fei to scream a little to convince, and Ming-Fei acts as a hostage in a very convincing way. Lautang tells Ming-Fei to climb the mountain by car. Ming-Fei, suddenly all the students feel an intense heat coming from behind, and the three are too afraid to turn around. Fireball comes with a child suggests they look coming in their direction. The child running and screaming it's a ghost, and instead of running away from the school, they go further into it, with the child following them, still calling, "Brother, brother." We then cut to the teachers, shocked by the disaster that arose. They deduce that the heat can only come from a sovereign flame, the dragon, which makes the teacher order all the students to go down quickly. A huge explosion occurs at the university. We go back to Chu Zai-hong, who is still fighting the masked girl. When the explosion occurs, they stop fighting, denies responsibility for the invaders are responsible. Chu Zai-hong believes in her girl, surprising the girl, who wonders why he believes so quickly. Chu Zai-hong says she's not lying, and Professor the girl leaves him. Calls the night watchman and asks him to apply the law again to prevent the dragon from using yanolin. Dragon can still the use yanolin, says that even with the law, purity of blood, suggesting that this dragon is probably of the first lineage, one of the 4 sovereigns of bronze and fire. We go to Kesari Mai. Mai continues to try to call her friend, who gives them information. When the friend answers that there is a child that a disaster happened everywhere, school, looking like a sun in flames walking on the ground. She panics and says it was to put the substance in the pot, not to wake him up. Caesar picks up Mai's phone and explains the situation to the friend. That it is not then he returns the phone to Mai, who asks what power is unstable because he was forced to wake up, and Mai says she will combat when she sees the video and she realizes shots happens, calling will destroy everything around him. Laetang and Ming-Fei hide, with the dragon looking for them. Ming-Fei asks Laetang what kind of work makes him invade the university and that his mission is to hunt mythical creatures. Ming-Fei is impressed with Laetang, almost seeing him as a superhero, infiltrate the school and steal the jar, showing photos to Ming-Fei, saying he freed the dragon, but Laetang says she found him already broken. Ming-Fei says to escape quickly before the dragon finds them, and Nono notices that the dragon's senses are much better than humans, but this dragon seems strange. Nono suspects that he is looking for one of them specifically. At this moment, Finger appears and says they need to escape, but Laetang warns when Ming-Fei realizes that there are shots everywhere, he shouts loudly. The dragon notices them and follows useless them. Senpai appeared instead of Caesar, how it is a shame that the useless senpai says that since the dragon uses fire, the best thing to do is go to a place with water. Nono suggests going to the university pool. The four run to the pool, and on the way they find Caesar and Mai. Unable to
Caesar
fight
tells
well
Nono
and
to go with
asks
them
him
to
to
protect
protect
Ming
but
Fei
Nono
because
wants
the
to help
dragon
him
is
fight.
probably following
Caesar
him.
explains
Thus,
that
Nono's
Nono's
friend
friend
would
leave him
with
worried
Ming
and
Fei
says
finger
that the best
and
thing
Leia
is to use
Caesar
rubber
asks
bullets,
Mai to
not
escape,
metal, but
Mai
Mai
says
says
she
she
is
is
the
the
leader
leader
and
and
will not
tranquilizer
abandon
in
the
explains
battlefield.
that although it will still hit the dragon, and thus, at least, they will be able to expel him from school. Mai tells Caesar that they will use rubber bullets, and Caesar passes the orders to the teachers, who pass them on to the students, and then all the students start shooting after Mai. The three of us
return
return
swimming in the water of watermelon.
Suddenly, Leia
has a
vision
finger
of
and Ming Fei
Constantino
playing
calling
and
him
introducing
brother, and he
themselves.
tells
The other two
that he
him.
feels the dragon enters the pool, and the three decide to hold their breath and go underwater. When Ming Fei dives, he finds himself in a strange place full of steam and rocks. He thinks it's one of the dreams. Mingzi shows him and approaches to ask where he doesn't show up. He sees someone in the. Ming Fei asked why he called him brother, saying he didn't know him. Constantino approached him and began to smell the palace of the bronze dragon, the one whose enigma they should solve. Then he realized that the boy was the dragon. Ming appeared Ming Fei was the dragon in the stomach, telling him to stay away from his brother. Mingzi took Ming Fei's hand and brought him back to reality. When Ming Fei came back to reality, he was still in the pool. There, Tangfinger had disappeared, and he was surrounded by the footprints of the Dragon Emperor. Told Ming Fei that he was urgently realized that what was coming was real. To go with then him. Director Andrew told Ming Fei that this could be the first time they saw each other. Ming Fei asked knew why they were about him, and the director took him to a high tower at the university. Of fighting was in the battle below. He said that the philosopher's stone dragon didn't he would kill an imperial dragon from. He handed Ming Fei over and said it would be him to kill him. Ming Fei protested that he was too weak to do something like that. The director said to be more confident, remembering that he shot in Chaser and Zhu Zihong on the first day at school. Ming Fei thought there was a trying to apologize to the head for his weak point. The director explained Ming Fei's the director said he was the only one when the director gave the signal when he activated his Yanling at the critical moment, and that he was more talented than he realized. Meanwhile, Leia Tang and Finger fled when they saw the dragon in the pool, leaving Ming Fei behind. Leia Tang heard the dragon call him. The dragon kept calling until it lost control and turned into a dragon human and he was shocked by calling for his brother. The director was the first time on the battlefield, telling the dragon that his time had come. He started his attack, and Ming Fei prepared to shoot. The director flew and activated his Yanling, delaying time. He attacked the dragon, opening his eye in his forehead, extremely nervous, but Mingzi was with him, holding him and telling him to shoot. Ming Fei fired the bullet, hitting the dragon in the eye, making him lose his ability to control bullets at the dragon. Finger shouted for Leia Tang to run could hit he was too close, but Leia Tang stood still, looking at the dragon for a moment before fleeing. The dragon flew and stopped in front of him. The shooting continued, and the dragon was seriously injured, but it remained standing with its wings open, protecting Leia Tang. His flesh fell and his blood drained completely. Leia Tang kept screaming that he wasn't his brother, telling him he didn't know him. Then he ran away, screaming that he wasn't his brother. The Constantino's last words were never come back to this world before he disappeared completely, and saw Leia Tang observed everything that had happened. Leia Tang ran through the forest in shock, remembering Constantine, where they talked about dying and reviving. It became clear that Constantine trusted and deeply loved his brother, telling him that he never felt afraid of him. He remembered the time together and the thousands of years that he was in fact with the oldest brother, unraveling completely until Leia Tang, and that he needed to avenge him. He got up and dragon flames broke him. Nightwatcher told the director that the four regents that Tang had released his dragon flames the Imperial Dragon, Norton, who had escaped from the kill 80 years ago. In front of his brother's eyes, knowing that the dragon would surely wake up furious and come to seek revenge, causing catastrophic destruction. The director replied that he wanted to end this dragon war before he died because he didn't have much time left. Everyone he knew had died and he was the only one alive. Nightwatcher said he was indispensable. The director said that the next director was already chosen. Nightwatcher asked if it was Ming Fei. The director said he saw potential in him and believed he would be the blade to end the dragons. The director continued, saying that his current goal was to kill the four Imperial and came back to life after being killed because they separated a part of their bodies and sealed them in a jar that contained all their genes and memories. Even the dead came back to life because they had a part of the body sealed. He said that, to eliminate the Imperial dragons at once, it was necessary to kill them before sealing the director replied that he wanted to get his bone to study because what he had wouldn't be enough. Then the next day, Ming Fei was in his room worried about the Imperial dragon, trying to call him, but Lao Tang didn't answer. That after the battle, many planes arrived at school and the members of the secret party went straight to Valhalla for a meeting that had not yet ended. Ming Fei asked Finger about the secret party. Finger explained that it was a large group of businessmen who kept their hidden identities, but in fact they were dragon hunters. Finger added that after the incident, the school was full of dragon hunters, making it safer than ever. Finger asked Ming Fei which group he had decided to join. Ming Fei said he had decided to join the Union. Finger was surprised by the speed of the decision, to the Union, surprising him when he found out that he was a member. Someone gave Ming Fei the Union card and said more Caesar wanted him, so there was Emma building fast if it was an important meeting. The person didn't know, only that Caesar drank tea with the director, which indicated to be important. We see the director and Caesar. The director said there was no more doubt that the underwater palace was built by the bronze dragon, Norton, and that a quick investigation was necessary. By the earthquake, they needed to do another recognition mission to the palace. Although the Lion Art Society did well in yesterday's battle, he wanted the Student Union to take care of this mission and insisted that Ming Fei be part of the team. Ming Fei goes to Caesar's office. This arrogant one welcomes him to the bronze mission. Without hesitation, Caesar tells Ming Fei that he will train for 2 months, almost and then his go reason to complete the mission. He is not fooling around, but his main talent loses his calm and everything. Caesar follows as if he didn't hear his panic for the mission, saying that if Ming Fei didn't know how to dive, Ming Fei would take care of his training. A beginner and that they need a professional for such an important mission. He insists that he has no talent or skill and guarantees that he will only hinder the mission. Ming Fei proved yesterday in battle that he is from the elite and his pure blood will compensate for the lack of experience. Ming Fei so there is nothing to worry about. His legs trembling with fear just to talk about the mission, but Caesar ignores him again, saying that it is natural, right? He then adds that there is a shortage of people capable of going on missions nowadays, so they need him. Ming Fei, in a second, makes quick calculations and says that there are 360 every year, only in the first year. In the last 20 years, being dragon at least hunters. 200 of them rank S, so there is no way they would have a shortage. Caesar continues, saying that, moreover, it is an honor for Ming Fei, especially because only 2 students from the first year were chosen. Dragging Ming Fei into such a dangerous mission, they should ask Caesar for their opinion before. Presumptuous tells him that if that's what he wants, then okay, and asks, Mr. Ming Fei, am I offering you the honor of joining the bronze mission? Ming Fei shouts full lungs that terminally refuses, to which Caesar replies that he regrets, but the decision is not in his hands. Enters the scene to encourage Ming Fei to accept, saying that the Heat agreed with him and that he should not forget that he is a rank S, so he will be fine and does not need to worry. Ming Fei, angry, says that no one sensible would agree with this, and they do not need to lie to him. But then does more than the other students, that he accepted the mission. Ming Fei and tries to convince her, saying that he can die, but Ren replies that they are there to save humanity and that he is aware of the risks. Ming Fei retorts that, unlike her, he came for free education and says that if they want to save humanity, let them do it. The first time at the meeting, him, tells Ming Fei that what he is doing is disappointing and that he had great hopes for him, especially for being the genius with the rank Caesar S. Then sarcastically repeats what Ming Fei said about coming for free education and that wanting a normal life, now, saying that his memory if he wants, and maybe ask him to make up a story about his time there and go back to normal life. Caesar then coldly dispenses Ming Fei, asking for his card before he goes. Ming Fei takes his card and is about to deliver very hard on Ming Fei and that he is overloading him with this story of saving humanity. Nono gives a lesson in ethics to Caesar, telling him to stop despising Ming Fei just because he doesn't act like the elite. Ming Fei calms down and tells Fei and tells him that he doesn't want to go, but that he's afraid to get in their way. He tells Caesar not to come and Caesar smiles at him, welcomes him on the mission, saying that he has great hopes for him. Ming Fei starts a rigorous training side to the other like a soccer ball. He trains running, and Caesar teaches him to use knives, where Ming Fei does it disastrously. Hu Zehong trains him in boxing, where Ming Fei is just as bad and very stupid. Ming Fei makes a lot of dive, training hard everywhere and for his merit. After 2 months, the time of the mission finally arrives. On the day of the mission, Ming Fei wears his diving suit and stands in front of the mirror for 15 minutes. In front of the mirror, Finger asks Ming Fei says he's just looking at his ridiculous appearance and starts cursing the mission and himself for having accepted Ming Fei asks Finger why he stays despite failing 4 years ago. Finger says that if he left Ming Fei and very the spectators, while he said the most important reason is that the school cafeteria food is delicious. Ming Fei is shocked that Finger stays at school for the food and shouts that he could just go on a mission and die like a key. Finger slaps Ming Fei lightly to make him stop screaming and says he's afraid to die. Ming Fei admits that he's scared and that he doesn't even have Yanling to protect him. Finger tries to comfort and motivate him, saying nonsense in all directions, saying that both are failures, throws his wallet need to come together to survive. If he dies, he can use it as much as he wants and buy whatever he wants until the administration notices and deactivates Finger calls and asks for the restaurant's most expensive dishes. He died, not Ming now, Fei shouts Finger replies that there is a chance of dying. Ming Fei shouts back that there is also a chance of living. Finger returns the letter to Ming Fei, saying that he's right, he should focus on his survival and not presume death. In the ocean, he reassures him, Palace saying that failures always bring luck. Returned after 2,000 years. On the ship, Ming thanks Professor Klein, announcing the palace all this time and returns. The students on the mission are Nono. Professor Klein tells them that from now on they will be treated as professional dragon killers, not as students. Ming Fei surprises Chu Zhong not being on the mission, questioning why they left someone as strong and important as reassures him and saying that they are ready if the Dragon Guardian attacks as before, with many chemical bombs capable of tearing him apart in seconds. He tells them that the diving team will take a bomb, and that the mission is to infiltrate the palace and explode it. Is full of treasures and valuable things that could benefit. Professor Klein says that the current technology is not enough to capture the entire palace. That Ming Fei and Nono will form Team B, while Kaiser and Ren will be Team A. Ming Fei is relieved to be away from danger, but Ren deceives him by assigning the bombing task to Team B. Ming-Fei asks Ren if there is a chance of finding a dragon in the palace, and Professor Klein replies that it is possible, because he will be in a dormant state. It will not when he escaped the bottle, he had a human form, and to become a dragon, he needs a long break to regain his strength. Ming-Fei asks why Norton wants to return to his dragon form, and Professor Klein replies that Norton wants to become a dragon to use his Yanling. He explains that their mission is to destroy the palace so that Norton has nowhere to rest and transform into a dragon. Ming-Fei and Norton go down to the gate, use his powerful Yanling to destroy the world, to put the key's blood on the Guardian's Ming-Fei's hand, making him panic. The Guardian wants to abandon the mission, but Norton prevents him. The gate opens and the chain pulls them inside. Nono loses consciousness, but Ming-Fei carries her and puts her on a rock in a dry area. There, when Nono wakes up, she asks Norma about the air quality, but Nono questions why the air has been good in a sealed place for centuries. Norma replies that the only explanation is that the dragon, Norton, returned to the palace and report on where they are. Professor Klein says they entered the palace and that nothing is unusual. They are in a very long corridor. Professor Klein explains that a long corridor indicates an ancient tomb and that it is full of statues. Ming-Fei says the place looks like an ancient sanctuary, and Jen and Aki were there, but at the time there was little air, so they wore masks, unlike Ming-Fei and Nono. This means that the air has changed, indicating that the dragon, Norton, returned and reactivated the palace. Ming-Fei is scared and asks if the dragon is now changes the tone and says that he can be awake and active. Their mission is to find the dragon's tail and plant the bomb there. However, Professor Klein tells them the same as Lars, Aki and Yichen. The mission is important to find their lives are a priority. He says they should try the water. Asks Professor Klein Ming-Fei tries and says it's fresh. Nono explains Professor Klein confirms water as a sign of the palace's reactivation and Ming-Fei to throw the dye indicating the direction of the tail. Ming-Fei and Nono follow the dye to find the tail. Ming-Fei, looking around, tells Nono that he is afraid of the statues, but Nono shouts at him to focus on the mission. The statues seem to be watching sacrifices as they run, Nono tells Ming-Fei how ancient humans arrive at the same place where Aki and Yichen were on the bronze pillar. Ming-Fei concludes the water flow may be where they died and runs away. Ming-Fei is ready to run says it's perfect. Ming-Fei to close the diving mask. Nono looks ahead and tells she closes hers too, then kicks him into the water and jumps after him, telling him to dive. To Ming-Fei that the water goes down, indicating a passage. They need a difficult place to access because Norton's tail must be in A. Ming-Fei screams, making Professor Klein believe that something terrible has happened. It is verified that the bottom is full of skulls of burned people. Professor Klein is intrigued and curious about what happened in the palace for so many bodies. Tail in the pilot causing the dragon to burn them. Klein tells Nono and Ming-Fei that the important thing is to find Ming-Fei's hand, removes the ligature from the Guardian's wound and places the bloody hand on the ground, and the connection with the ship is lost. Professor Klein and Nono and the Yinling to find out what happens with Ming-Fei's blood. Simple play each other. Nono says he didn't expect to see this there under the gate, and they start exploring. The place is so serene and simple that Ming-Fei jokes that the bronze dragon was broken. Find a burning candle. Enter the small building. Suggests that it burns 2,000 years ago, connected to the dragon's fuel source. They want to ask Norma about the candle, but the connection falls. Nono reassures Ming-Fei those who live they will use Norton it to go up and find the ropes, and says to Ming-Fei sit at the table-year-old conversation between Norton and Constantine. When she returns to her, Nono says that a man and a boy lived there, brothers. The older one took care of the younger one, sick, who couldn't leave the palace. They lived a common life.
To read
the
and
older
write.
brother teaching the
older
younger brother
one
was often alone, watching the sunset. Nono concludes that this
She
is
programs
undoubtedly
the
the
bomb
timer,
dragon's
allowing
torch,
20 minutes
Norton.
extra to go up. But when she
Fuel
puts the
source,
bomb, she
that is,
realizes
it was
that
not
the
lit
candle
for
has
2,000
years, but it was refueled by someone. They
suggesting
run back
that
to the
Norton
gate
is there,
using Ming Fei's blood to open it and return to the
changing
surface,
and crumbling.
finding the place.
They use
Ming Fei's blood again to reopen the gate and
Ming Fei
return to the
deduces
dragon.
that
Something
tail.
happened to Aki and Itchen, and
Be
the
below.
exit must. They go down, find a gate, and use Ming
On the
Fei's
ship,
blood to
Kezra
open
is
it.
worried
about Nono and wants to dive to look for them. Klein insists that they wait an hour, and if they don't come back, they'll leave. Meanwhile, Nono and Ming Fei search through many labyrinths. Nono admits that they are lost without the means to contact Norton. Ming Fei remembers what Ming says that Ming Fei only needs to ask Ming Fei hears Finger's voice. His request will be answered. Ming Fei shouts lost back and can't find the exit map, and it turns out that they use Professor Klein's brain to transmit members have old PCs, so they need time to access the data. He explains that the map has changed since the last time it was used. Finger warns Ming Fei that the palace is falling, so they need another route to. He tells them to enter quickly through the door below, as time is running out. Even with limited information for being rank F, Finger asks for access to rank B data to invade the school system to access rank S
Finger asks
information.
Professor
Klein
Klein
to
to
ignore
ignore
the
the
invasion
invasion
and
this
begins to
time.
guide Nono and Ming Fei out of the palace. Meanwhile, on the ship with Kaiser and Professor Klein, the pilot approaches 50 degrees Celsius. Ren suggests that the Imperial Dragon has moved and will try to catch them. Professor Klein is ill due to mental exhaustion, and Ren affirms that he can no longer lead. Kaiser as the new leader, and he immediately begins to give orders. Caesar's first task is to locate the dragon, but the ship shakes violently. A student reports that something has invaded and sets the ship on fire. They discover that it is the dragon's tail that pierces the ship's belly. Caesar is intrigued by why the Imperial Dragon Norton attacked without firing the alarms. Ren speculates that the dragon may have abilities such as invisibility or Caesar insists that it must have been hidden under the ship all the time. Caesar orders the engines to be activated to escape. Even with the ship at high speed, the dragon chases them. The main engine fails, and they activate the secondary, with Caesar instructing the pilot to
Suddenly,
force them. Ren says to Caesar that the monster chasing them is not the Imperial Dragon. A figure at a distance in Caesar flames. Realizes it is the Imperial Dragon Norton. Norton jumps into the water, blocking the ship's path. Caesar orders the ship Norton's intentions. Norton calls and when Samson arrives, Norton stands on his head for the years of service before brutally killing him. The crew wonders why Norton killed Samson, just to see Samson with greater power and resurrect. With Norton standing on him, indicating that they have emerged. From afar, Mai observes the situation and warns companion that Norton took Samson's body to save time. Mai receives orders not to kill Ming Fei, but to eliminate Norton if necessary. Back with Ming Fei and Nono, Finger continues to guide them through the palace. Suddenly, swimming, they find a body in a school diving suit. They realize that it is Yiking who gave his oxygen tank to Aki so she could go up. Ming Fei expresses admiration for Yiking. They find Yiking holding an important item he found in which Aki could not carry due to his burden. Finger shouts for them to hurry up, so Nono says to Yiking and asks him to take care of Aki. The place starts to shake, forcing them to move quickly. Despite following Finger's directions, they can't find way out, and Ming Fei panics, shouting to Nono for a solution. Suddenly, Ming Fei has a vision. Someone reprimands him for depending on others, comparing him to the brave Yiking who died the voice on the mission. In the vision tells Ming Fei, trust yourself, move forward with your strength. Back to reality, Ming Fei tells Nono that Yiking there means they are on the right track. He explains that the dragons have been watching the entrance, wanting to arrest them for unknown reasons. They reach the door, but Ming Fei's wound healed in no time, with the wall about to collapse. Nono tries to hold the wall while Mingfei cuts his hand again to open the door. Falls into the guardian's mouth, so Mingfei bites his finger, causing his mask and oxygen to fail, and he faints. Back to the ship, Caesar orders the pilot to return position, to the previous. Even without ammunition and with the engines out of order. Saves Mingfei, but their oxygen is halfway. When he wakes up, Mingfei is happy to have escaped the palace. Nono explains that they are still 80 meters Mingfei's underwater. High pressure and damaged suit mean that a brief pause in breathing can cause his lungs to explode. Nono insists on giving Mingfei his suit on the surface, as he promised to protect him. The ship arrives at the dock and sounds a diving bell in a desperate attempt. The university sends Zhu Zihang to kill the Imperial Dragon Norton. Mingfei wears Nono's suit, praising its quality. As they go up, the bomb they planted in the dragon's neck explodes, releasing gas everywhere, causing Mingfei to worry about Nono's safety. When Caesar hears that Zhu Zihang is coming, he says, even if he comes, what can he do? It's no use. Ren asks why, and Caesar asks if she knows Zhu Zihang's in Ling, to which she replies, the ruler, before quickly remaining silent. Caesar does not notice and continues, saying that they face a fire, so any fire in Ling is useless, as it is a lost cause. The crew to prepare the missiles, but Ren informs him that all the missiles have been destroyed. Caesar clarifies that it was the chemical missiles destroyed, but there are still the normal ones. The pilot tells Caesar that ordinary missiles will not hurt him, but Caesar does not need an explosion, only speed. He explains that the storm missile, immune to water, will be accelerated. If it hits something at high speed, it will cause serious damage. Ren, impressed, says that they must shoot close so that the dragon does not escape. Caesar instructs Ren to stand by the missiles and shoot when he gives the faces the Imperial Dragon, but suddenly the dragon stops. Caesar realizes that the dragon felt asks the pilot if they have reached the diving point of Mingfei. The pilot confirms and hopes that the two will go up soon. Caesar checks the missiles, and the pilot guarantees that everything is ready. Ren went to the launch room to shoot the missiles by hand if necessary. Caesar sees with his eyes, using his It was right. The darkness surrounds him, the dragon welcomes the enemy, and Caesar responds with bullets. The pilot explains that Caesar's first shots were to distract the dragon. The shot hits, but without effect, leaving the pilot worried. Ren explains that Caesar's goal was to irritate the dragon, his fury to focus on him, ensuring that he would not escape to provoke the dragon with shots. Who says that the missile room is extremely hot, measuring 70 degrees. The pilot warns that firing the missiles will increase even more, risking an explosion. Ren bets his life on the chance of not exploding. With the missiles ready to fire, Caesar orders to approach the Imperial Dragon at maximum speed. The pilot is afraid that the dragon will escape. Caesar assures him that he is cornered. Caesar stops using his Yingling, revealing Zhu Zihang above the dragon on a plane. Ren realizes that Caesar used Zhu Zihang but does not understand his exact plan. Zhu Zihang releases the dragon's flame, causing massive explosion that temporarily blinds everyone. Caesar removes his blindfold, revealing that he used it to protect his eyes to fight now, when no one else can see. Caesar orders Ren to fire the missiles. They hit the original Imperial Dragon, killing him, and he sinks into the ocean. Tells Caesar that the plane is seriously damaged, needs to return quickly. After Zhu Zihang leaves, Caesar discovers that he is from the noise of the launch of the missiles. Corinne checks how he is, needing surgery herself. She asks Caesar if he's okay, realizing that his voice sounds strange, saying that the hearing was damaged by the missile. Ren asks why he knows signs and explains that he learned it from who lost her hearing after dealing with his Yingling. Ren tells that he learned signs as a child because he didn't understand himself and used signs to talk to himself. Caesar tells her that she will be his eyes and hands, promising to complete the mission together. They shake hands, forming an unbeatable team against the Imperial Dragon. Ren says that only Nono is missing to find the diving bell. Mingfei and Nono swim towards the light of the diving bell. Nono opens the door and lets Mingfei in first. As soon as she enters, the tail of a dragon suddenly closes the door, holding Mingfei inside, while dying before his eyes, unable to save her. Mingfei cries loudly, telling Nono not to die, knowing what to do besides crying. Suddenly, Mingzi calls him in a dream, saying that screams and crying don't to help. Remember his yingling to defeat the dragon and save Nono. Mingzi says that Mingfei acted as if he were dying to see him, but Mingfei ignores him and goes back to sleep. Surprised, asks what he is doing. Mingfei says he has no time, needs to recover as much as possible to return to reality. He asks Mingzi not to call him to the dream again when he is busy. Mingzi warns that time passes in the real world while he sleeps, saying that Nono bleeds a lot from the dragon's wound, loses consciousness and dies slowly. If Nono dies, Mingfei will be alone against the dragon and can die at any time. Mingfei says he has no time for that. Mingzi says not to worry, time here passes slower than in reality, so when he will still have a chance to save Nono, but only if he has the strength. Mingfei goes back to sleep to gather strength. Mingzi asks if he has a goal in life, calling it dear failure. Mingfei replies that even if he has a goal, it is not on Mingzi's account. But Mingzi insists on asking him to share, as he may be able to help, saying he can kill dragons. Mingfei pays attention. Mingzi continues, saying that his ability in places like this shows that he is not an ordinary person. Mingzi asks Mingfei why he entered university and if it is worth facing such danger. Mingfei says his reason is simple, he wanted his parents to be proud of him. However, he passed the 3A exam and still does not understand why he would not have deciphered the map without Mingzi's help, and his skills did not defeat Kessa, and wonders if someone his parents could be proud of. Mingzi tells him that good luck is an ability, but joining the union was a mistake because it led him to this dangerous mission. Mingfei says Nono invited him, so he could not refuse. Mingzi beats him, calling him a failure. Mingfei retorts that Mingzi will never understand him, saying that no one cared or said he mattered. At some point he began to believe that he had no value, which led him to life because he did not know what to do. He stopped caring about Nono saved him from that life, giving him the best feeling he ever had. Out of pity, not out of love. Mingfei says he doesn't care. She said it was a pity, and he doesn't want to stand idly by while she dies. He admits that it is a great failure, wants to help her and save her, not let her die. At him and says he will help, but not for free. He proposes an agreement. He will give to Mingfei in exchange for something from him. Mingzi explains that Mingfei will invoke him 4 times, and after fulfill, Mingfei's life will be his when he feels completely alone. Mingfei says the price is high and asks what Mingzi can do for him in return. Mingzi says he can almost fulfill any wish of Mingfei. Asks if he can kill the dragon. Mingzi replies, it won't be easy, but Mingfei inquires more about the condition of loneliness. Mingzi says it is a desperate loneliness that Mingfei himself will determine. Mingfei agrees with the contract. Mingzi says it is the first time in thousands someone of years has accepted, surprised that Nono has changed so much. Mingfei says he is not so stupid to sell his life. He plans not to invoke Mingzi 4 times so as not to give up his life. He asks how they will do the contract. Mingzi tells him to extend his hand, casting while explaining that power enchants people, and since he has it, it is difficult to resist his charm. He smiles, saying that Mingfei fell into the trap. Mingfei is happy to have someone calling him brother. Mingzi completes the contract, opening Yanling's skills to Mingfei as Collect, which strengthens power, and Noglus, which for Yanling is alien. Mingfei is surprised by the names and asks Mingzi if they are real, and says he has a 3rd ability, and that he can now save Nono. Mingzi explains that Collect allows him to control life. Mingfei asks how to use these skills. Mingzi tells him to say the words and everything will work. He also grants Mingfei the strength of warning him not to abuse Yanling's high-level powers under the guise of losing control. Mingzi brings Mingfei back to reason. Mingfei transforms, breaks the door of the diving bell and reaches Nono. He gives him an oxygen mask and uses Yanling's and survival to remove the dragon's spine. He ties the rope to the bell and pulls it to signal the ship. The pilot assures Kessa that Nono and Mingfei are alive and will return safely, asking that medical teams be ready for possible injuries. After pulling Nono, Mingfei returns the dragon to continue the fight. That Nono is safe and that it is time for the main event. Mingfei says he's ready, but realizes that hasn't unlocked any Yanling offensive ability for him. Mingfei says he already has the tools he needs for the fight. Mingfei explains that the box thing had 7 chemical weapons made by representing the 7 sins of the capital's prey. envy, anger, laziness, greed, gluttony and lust. Norton did it because he believed dragon was due to commit the 7 sins of the Norton created 7 weapons to judge them. Using the right weapon for sin doubles its effect. For example, Minfei could easily cut Norton in half with the sword of anger when Norton is angry. When Norton uses his yanling, Mingzi tells Minfei to seal him with As Minfei says, Norton is sealed, unable to use his yanling. Minfei challenges Norton to a knife fight, opening the box of weapons. Mingzi is surprised when Minfei does not invoke the sword of anger, but gluttony, pride and lust. Mingzi says he's wrong, but can work by warning Minfei to be careful because the enemy is strong. Minfei attacks Norton with the weapons, but Ming realizes that he fights to move in the water, helping him move more freely. Mingzi encourages him to defeat the fire dragon. Minfei takes action, slicing the dragon into pieces. Minfei continues to attack the dragon furiously, but the dragon does not die yet. Here, Mingzi tells him to finish quickly, because if the battle goes on, nothing will be in his favor, and the dragon expects him to get tired to attack so Minfei thinks about death and says that if he dies, no one will notice, and whoever regrets his death will probably forget it until dinner. Even those who cry for him will overcome quickly when the only one who may be really sad is Finger. Mingzi takes him to a dream and asks if he's sad and if he is desperate with the world to please warn him so that he can take his own life immediately. But Minfei says he never had a girlfriend, so he needs to live for his future girlfriend. But Mingzi knows he's talking nonsense and says he fights the dragon because he thinks about his friends on the ship, and if he dies without stopping the dragon probably kill them without a chance of survival for them. So Mingzi continues and tells him that he has to fight with all his strength for them. Mingzi also says that the blow must be in Norton's, not in the dragon's body that merged with him. Minfei uses a little weapon to find Norton's body. At first he can't hear because everything is too noisy, and he can't hear anything. Mingzi tells him to calm down and remember why he fights. These feelings will give him strength to continue. Minfei says he just wants to save Nono and the comrades on the ship. He then calms down, focuses, and locates Norton's position. Minfei attacks Norton at high speed until he reaches his real body to find Leotang and asks what he's doing there and if he recognizes him. But Leotang doesn't answer and grabs Minfei's neck, trying to strangle him. Minfei is about to die when Mingzi arrives with a sword, placing it next to Minfei's hand. He grabs the sword and nails it to Leotang's back. Mingzi says this blow is fatal, as he lost half of his power and has not yet regained his strength. Minfei floats up while looking at Leotang's memories together and how much he loves her. He says that Leotang kept looking at him until he sank into darkness. Next, we go to the ship where everyone is gathered around Nono, Kaiser and the doctor to check Nono. Finally wakes up and everyone applauds. Caesar is happy as if there was no one else in the sea. Minfei floats in the water, completely exhausted, thinking of Leotang, whom he killed with his own hands. Suddenly, Rina appears. She asks him if he knows how to swim or if she should pull him up. He says he doesn't know how to swim, so she pulls and tells him to buy her a fancy dinner later. Minfei asks worriedly if she eats a lot. From afar, my watches everything. Waiting, we discover that Emperor Dragon Norton is still alive and fleeing. Mai says that his spirit is very strong and it is her turn to fight and be the last nail in his coffin. She takes the bullet from the Philosopher's Stone, the bullet that killed his brother, and shoots this time. Emperor Dragon Norton loved his brother, the sunset, and his simple home more than anything. Mai calls and informs that Norton was eliminated and is dead, and Minfei is alive. So let's go to the ship where everyone sees that killed the dragon for the last time. Rin asks about Zhu Zihang, and they tell her that he is being treated and waiting for new orders. Minfei goes to have tea with the director, who praises him for getting a maximum grade. He tells him that there are 4 ruling dragons. Each dragon is 2 brothers like Norton and Constantine. In fact, there are 8. He says that the Black Dragon created them like this to be stronger and not die easily. Minfei asks the director why dragons appear in human form. Tells him that if the dragon appears in human form, humans will be less cautious. The director takes off an envelope and hands it to Minfei. There is a photo of Lao Tang sitting with his friend. The director says his name is Lao Tang. He grew up orphanage after the death of his adoptive parents. After high school, he went to the Favelers, supporting himself. But he lived without money to donate everything to the orphanage where he grew up. That he knew that before the mission, but he said nothing to know about their friendship. Min-fei asks why Lao Tang became the Emperor Dragon. The director replies that he did not become, he was always the Emperor Dragon. Just remembered. The director talks about the dragon Norton, who lived in a bronze palace. He got involved in the war and died in it. But before he died, he created a jar with a cassock inside to shape his new brother bodies. Left the cassock first but lost his memories. Min-fei says that Lao Tang was in his 20s. The director replies that he was over 100 years old. The country until he was adopted. That he was a normal human being until he remembered the past. Min-fei says he thought they couldn't kill the Emperor Dragons. The director says that this case is different because he was weak, having to merge with a weaker dragon, and he didn't have time to create another jar so they could kill him. If Norton had recovered his strength and use his flame, Yanling would have caused many deaths. Min-fei asks if Norton hated humans so much. The director replies that Norton did this to avenge Constantine, who sacrificed his life to protect his brother. The director tells Min-fei that their friendship would have ended without Constantine because that's the nature of dragons. The director gives Min-fei a letter from his mother she saying and her father saw his notes proud and were looking forward to the day of graduation. The last thing the director tells Min-fei is to maintain a confidential stating incident. The official reports claim that Caesar's missile killed the dragon. But Norton was attacked in the water by a dragon. Her if the dragon was dead. And if the dragon attacked her, how did she come back safe and sound? Min-fei cannot tell the director the details of his contract with Ming. The director then says that trusting does not matter and will not ask for details. Ming sends a phone to Min-fei so they can communicate. And Min-fei wants to break him, but decides to keep him. We return to the director, who has Min-fei's 3A image of the dream she had in the corridor during the exam. The director looks especially at Ming-yi and welcomes Min-fei again. And it seems that this is not her first time at Kassel College.